Hi everyone, Alex Tardy here with Weather Echo. Thanks for subscribing and also for subscribing to our emailed weather blog. Reminder to check that out as well at Weather Echo. We've got a weather insight for you, a few things to talk about, a recap of the monsoon, and yes, Tropical Cyclone Juliette. We could see some rain from that in San Diego, and the important September outlook. September is a critical month, transitioning from summer monsoon, but a lot of Septembers can be warm and really moist. So this is an outlook worth watching. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. The monsoon, well, it came late this year. So normally in August, we are in the thick of the monsoon. The typical monsoon tapers off in late September. But this year, we saw very little activity in August, very little in July, other than a few thunderstorms in late May and June, not related to the monsoon. It's been really dry in the southwest. Now, the areas you see in green received 3 to 4 inches of rain. That's too much at once. So we had the flash flooding that we talked about a week or so ago that was anticipated. We had our first thunderstorms in the Inland Empire, and thunderstorms extended all the way up through the Mojave Desert, in fact, all the way through the Sierra Nevada. And the areas that really needed the rain were in Arizona, and they did receive rain. And again, a little bit too much at once. Speaking of that, Salton Sea Imperial Valley, State Route 86. This devastating flooding, really dangerous flash flooding, required multiple swiftwater rescues on the 86 and a full closure. These are some scenes to that devastating flooding that occurred from 3 or 4 inches of rain in a couple hours from monsoon thunderstorms. Now, the same day, earlier this week, a haboob, that's a thunderstorm outflow, wind blowing across the desert, picking up that sand and dust. Now, all thunderstorms, the air is rising and the air must come down. It gets heavy, wet, full of hail, very dense, but it comes down hard sometimes. In this case, 70-mile-per-hour wind recorded at Phoenix Airport. Yes, it shut down the airport and caused some damage. Okay, what's going on now across the United States? So we see a lot of different moisture sources, all big changes from last month. Dry in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. The deep tropical moisture has been suppressed into the Gulf. We still see some atmospheric river activity that will not affect us, however. Juliette will, yes, tropical cyclone. That includes all different phases of a tropical system. That's why I use the term tropical cyclone. We're actually going to get remnant moisture, not the actual center, not a hurricane, but remnant tropical moisture. That red area is going to move up close to San Diego, bring some rain. So quite a bit going on, but a lot different than what we've seen so far this summer. And still some monsoon moisture lingers in the southwest, as shown here. Now, so far this summer, it's been very dry in the west up till recently. Great Basin still much below normal. The Northeast, New England, very dry. Even parts of the Tennessee Valley have been dry. But see the wet pockets, such as the Mid-Atlantic region, parts of Texas, and the northern plains all the way up into Montana. Now, temperature-wise, it's been warmer than normal in the Ohio Valley up into New England, Pacific Northwest, and even the southwest part of the United States. But a couple cooler pockets still evident, even though recently warmer, is California and central Texas. Now, if we look a little closer to the west and really focus and think about the monsoon, we've finally developed some areas of normal to above normal, even though for the most part the Great Basin is still running below average. That includes Nevada, Utah, most of Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. This monsoon was just really late this year. We should have had several episodes already. We should be in the peak of monsoon here in late August. Temperatures warmer than normal due to the lack of precipitation across much of the Great Basin and the Pacific Northwest. Now, remember, we did have an atmospheric river move across the Pacific Northwest, so that turned some of those areas to green or about where they should be, so made up for some deficits. Now, if we look before and after is what I'm showing here. So very dry conditions, almost no monsoon for the first half of summer into mid-August. And then you look to the right, we really put a dent in some areas. You can see those blue, purple shaded areas, the Mojave Desert, the Imperial Valley down by Yuma. But we could use a lot more moisture across the west overall. But notice the bright red at least has faded away. So our deficits are much, much less. We also made significant improvement in the Pacific Northwest with that atmospheric river. We went from red to green up near Seattle. So continued wet conditions as you look across Montana, as shown here in the blue and the purple area. So a very lackluster monsoon, better late than never, but we had a little bit too much at once. Okay, what's changing or what do we expect? Well, we're going to get moisture coming up from the tropics and Juliette for the middle part of this week. Now, we also have a weather system dropping in the Pacific Northwest, so that's going to cool things down where it's been really warm in the Pacific Northwest. But then it's going to retreat and hang out and move away. So we kind of keep the moisture in the Gulf, we keep the moisture in the Baja, Mexico, and the one change is the big cool pattern that's been going on in the Northeast and Ohio Valley. That kind of relaxes, so things start to warm up there as we go towards Labor Day weekend. Now, speaking of Juliette, doesn't look like much, but you can see on the satellite blue there is where the heavy rain and thunderstorms are. And well ahead of it now, high clouds are already moving into Southern California. So again, we don't expect the hurricane, the center of it, or really even the remnants, but the tropical moisture, the water vapor, and the leftover rain is expected to bring some light precipitation to San Diego County, maybe some pockets of heavier rain too, if it moves directly towards us. Now for Labor Day weekend, the big coming weekend, we do see some changes afterwards. So I mentioned the eastern United States warming up a little bit, not as cool, not below normal. They get a cold front after Labor Day as shown here. So really a repeat of the pattern over the past week. Now out west, we don't see a big heat dome forming, but we still see a remnant heat dome in the southwest region, which is very normal for this time of year, early September. So moisture remains in the Gulf, and some of that monsoon moisture tries to creep up into the desert southwest. Also notice the rebuild of the upper ridge or heat dome in the Pacific Northwest. That's going to be important because potential outlook in September could be prolonged warm there, and they've already had a much warmer than normal summer in the Pacific Northwest. This is the pattern so far. And you can see so far this summer why the Northeast has been warmer than normal and much drier than normal. There's been two blocking patterns, Pacific Northwest and the Northeast. Now, yes, the Pacific Northwest had one atmospheric river that brought a lot of precipitation, but overall the pattern's been blocked. Same with the Northeast. We've had this weak jet stream moving across California, keeping things cool, persistent onshore flow. It's also been pushing the monsoon up until recently to our east, keeping it from setting up or developing. So a very unusual pattern with the two corners of the United States being warm and overall blocking weather patterns. And the jet stream's been pushed way up into Canada overall, but we've still seen this weak weather pattern that has really resulted in, until recently, the limited monsoon. Okay, the important outlook for September. Only here on Weather Echo do we show graphics like this. This is an ensemble of weather models put together to give you a long-range, multiple-week outlook. So I mentioned the cool weather that's been going on. That's going to warm up or modify in the Northeast and Ohio Valley. The warm conditions, unfortunately, retreated a little bit. It's been really warm in the Pacific Northwest. They look like they come back after Labor Day weekend. Now, when we go into mid part of September, you can see Pacific Northwest painted in that shade of gray. That's going to be the hottest area over the United States due to that blocking weather pattern. And then towards the end of September, we do see a little warmth returning in the east and mid-Atlantic. Now for precipitation, we do see the signal of the moisture coming up. Yep, Juliette shows up in green there, coming up from the south, combining with the monsoon moisture we've had. But then that retreats, and we see a monsoon more focused over New Mexico and parts of Arizona and West Texas after Labor Day weekend. Note the wet conditions potentially for Florida shown here after Labor Day. And then when we go into deep September, the Gulf and Florida remain really wet. That could be some tropical activity as well. And that really persists most of September. And not until late September do we see a signal of wetter than normal where they really need rain in the northeast. So overall, our transition to September looks like our modest monsoon continues with wet conditions potentially and active tropical conditions potentially in the eastern part of the United States. All right, more information can be found here. We're posting on YouTube, TikTok, and X regularly. Please subscribe to our blog so you get a notice of when one is issued. We issued several this week. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Keep subscribing, keep tuning in, and we can provide these free webinars.